Persona series is a pirate's treasure trove of unique and memorable songs, which have become as much of a staple in the series as battling shadows or developing social links. The series takes genres like J-pop, acid jazz, rock, and even rap and does tricks on them to create and accentuate the atmospheres and moments in these games. If you're like me, then video game music in and of itself is an experience all on its own. I don't have to be neck deep in robot zombies on Catacomb 4 just to bump Valley of the Hero. And I don't have to be fighting for my life in court against Nintendo of America because I used 30 seconds of a Mario Odyssey song one time in a silly YouTube video to listen to Trial from the Ace Attorney games, which they might also sue me for. So I thought it would be fun to celebrate these games and chronologically go through time and look at all of the music of Persona. Shin Megami Tensei If was the spin-off that started it all. Atlus decided to take a break from demons in the apocalypse and took their demons and gave them a goddamn high school education. And by golly did the people eat that up. Shin Megami Tensei If acts as a what-if scenario, a spin-off for the series. What if the apocalypse never happened? What if I could just spend my days youthfully reeling in a big fat fish? What if I downloaded a computer virus application on my phone that takes me to another world and gives me fun little elf boots? The soundtrack to Shin Megami Tensei If starts out beautifully with this haunting little number, and you best believe that it does an excellent job at setting the tone for this game. The droning, mysterious, foreboding vocal over top of that simple but mysterious little melody, just eerie and epic and right in your face. But the composer of this game is actually not Shoji Meguro, a name I'm sure many, if not all, Persona music fans have definitely heard of, as he will join us in the Persona series in the next game and will stick with us for the majority of the games we talk about in this video. The exceptions being Persona 2 Innocent Sin and Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. However, Shin Megami Tensei If soundtrack was composed by Tsukasa Masako, who worked on many of the early Shin Megami Tensei games. And boy does their pedigree show, because the battle theme in this game is this intense and driving piece that just really gets your blood bumping. The melody is fast-paced and energetic, using a combination of electric guitars and percussion to create a sense of urgency and excitement. The boss battle music is hard and heavy and driving and certainly fits with both the theme and the other songs in the soundtrack. But the boss battle music for the Akira round? Look, pass me the nunchucks, call me a little baby ninja turtle, because I'll go down a spooky secret little manhole anytime to hear this banger. Oh my goodness. Everything right down to the game over music is excellent and doomy and gloomy, but in a fantastic way. Songs like School and Classroom and Computer Lab help draw the fantastical line in the sand between everyday life as a student and fighting demons and saving the world. And this distinction will only become increasingly important as we go through the series and the Persona games. So even though Shin Megami Tensei If isn't a Persona game in name, and even though it came out in 1994, we can still see it already begin to define some key aspects for music in the series. As Persona branched off and came into its own from the Shin Megami Tensei series, Atlus began to define the series in not only gameplay, setting, storytelling, but also atmospherically and tonally. And as those aspects shifted, so too did the music. Persona 1 has a story of casting characters that can only be described as absolutely nuts, and a soundtrack that's filled to the brim with that chunky, funky, fat 90s JRPG sound. But at the same time, it was also so much different than the traditional RPG soundtrack you'd think of from that time period. The soundtrack of Revelations Persona 1 was composed by Hidehito Aoki, Kenichi Tsuchiya, Misaki Okube, and whoa! Look who it is. Dude, my eyes deceive me. It's Shoji Meguro, boys. This was actually Shoji Meguro's first gig working for Atlus and the reason he was hired in 1995. He composed 16 tracks for Persona 1, including Aria of the Soul, and that was just the very beginning of his career with Atlus. Composing Aria of the Soul on day one, that is starting way up here, brother. It's like if you got hired on at a bakery and then started duplicating loaves like Jesus daggum Christ on day one. Personas 1 and 2 again are certainly oddballs in comparison to the rest of the series 3 through 5, which brought mainstream attention to the Persona series. But just because they're weird weird and a little goofy does not mean that they don't have some soccer boppers in those soundtracks. Dream of Butterfly brings us not only an incredible song to open the game to, but also introduces vocals. I mean, look, it's no Utada Hikaru power ballad, alright? It's not When You Walk Away You Can't Hear Me Saying here, but we're getting there, okay? We're getting there. Dream of Butterfly is like a fun little slice of life anime opener, but like make it more dangerous, make it a little saucier. Like if there was a slice of life anime about Majima Goro from Yakuza. Then we got School Days, which is an absolute slapper for all time. Imagine you're hammered in the club and they put this one on. I might not be making it back. Ladies, y'all gonna have to roll me out of here. And speaking of ridiculously hard jams, you can't go talking about music of Persona, then talk about Persona 1 without mentioning Alone Prayer. Look at me. Look at me right in the eyes. Friday night. Mainline 4 grapefruit White Claws straight to the nervous system, then name your top 50 Persona songs. Tell me this one doesn't crack the top 30, the top 20, and I will pop out of your dumpster on trash day and feed you an entire sock. Okay, I won't do that, and don't mainline 4 White Claws if you're not of age, and if you just know your limits. Okay, know your limits and be safe. Persona 1 also brings with it the introduction of Igor, who I feel very strongly about, all of you know. But it also, as we mentioned, brings with it Aria of the Soul, which is a revolution and an exquisite tune to belt in your car on the way to work. Now gamers, I'll level with you here. I used to believe that Lady Gaga invented gay people in the year of our Lord 2011 when she released Born This Way. However, Aria of the Soul got me feeling a little bit differently. I love this song. I love all iterations of this song. The Smash Ultimate remix of this song had me feeling different. Another one that if I heard this song in the club, I might not be making it back. Now, the last Persona 1 song I want to talk about is the song titled Persona. And if you've played P3 Fez, Persona 3 Fez, then right now you're thinking, wait a minute, you rat bastard. You buffoon. You thought I wouldn't notice that you just took the song Persona from Persona 3 and slowed it down a little bit, but I did. And I'm here to tell you that actually it was Atlas speeding up the song and also inserting 500 milliliters of raw fucking vibes to it for Persona 3 Fez. Which, not to say Persona from Persona 1 is not a vibe. On the contrary, it's actually the original vibe. A beautiful and introspective bookend to close off the first game. A song that quietly and thoughtfully captures the mood and main themes of the game. Stay true to yourself and don't trust weirdo millionaire tech guys. Persona 2. Let's talk about Persona 2 Innocent Sin, the PSP soundtrack. The opening song is Unbreakable Tie, and while I do love Mr. Lotus Juice, he does an excellent job, an outstanding job in Persona 3 and beyond, but this opening is just okay for me. Doesn't feel super fitting to the rest of Innocent Sin. Like, don't get me wrong, the guitar here is nuts, okay? Lotus Juice, Mr. Juice is doing his work, I understand, but it just feels a little out of place and doesn't really mesh with the rest of the soundtrack. Like, you hear that opening and then you go into the title track, which is much more somber, subdued, not in your face, and it just feels more retrospective, more foreboding, and closer to kind of the themes and the overall vibe of Persona 2 Innocent Sin, which, as we dive into the soundtrack, that will sound like an incredibly counterintuitive statement because the rest of this soundtrack is just an eclectic romp. It's like genre roulette, but we'll get into it in a moment. All the character themes are fitting, especially Lisa's, which is kind of a fucking slapper. I won't even lie about it. But as I said, Persona 2 Innocent Sin has the most eclectic maze of a soundtrack, but it kind of rocks in that way. The opening is just a little bit lackluster and a little bit of a letdown compared to the insanity that goes on in this OST. Like, show me another game where the songs oscillate wildly from sounding like they belong in Stardew Valley to the Shadow the Hedgehog game soundtrack and every notch in between that you can imagine. As I said earlier, Shoji Meguro actually didn't compose for any of the songs on Innocent Sin or Eternal Punishment. Not saying that these OSTs are worse in any way, just that there is definitely a bit of dissonance between some of the tracks that's not as extreme in other OSTs we'll hear today. But Innocent Sin's soundtrack is just a vibe cluster from top to bottom. You go to the next song, suddenly we're in Jet Set Radio. Then you go to the next song and it's straight out of a Mario water level. Playing the Innocent Sin soundtrack front to back is like giving the aux to that one friend who says they listen to a little bit of everything. Like, we'll go from Deftones to Kesha and then hit Hank Williams Jr. next. But I gotta say, weirdly enough, I'm not even mad at it. You will go from beautiful, heart-wrenching tracks like Tranquility straight into Crazy Party that is a whiplash-inducing nightmare transition. It's like going from My Heart Will Go On to Crazy Frog. As eclectic as this soundtrack is, it also, in my opinion, boasts one of the best battle themes in the whole Persona series. After your ears dine on the Innocent Sin battle theme, you'll feel like you're eating dog food when you hear Reach Out to the Truth. This soundtrack is a fever dream, and it has songs that sound like SoundCloud ass beats, but somehow, some way, they still fucking work, and it's mind-boggling. And then you got tracks like In La Catch, which, if you told me that Jeff Probst used this song on a Survivor promo, I would believe you. And then there's Public Facility, which is just a happy, peppy, cheerful little tune. It's electric. And look, if you take one thing away from this video, it's to go listen to this soundtrack. Go listen to the Persona 2 Innocent Sin soundtrack, because it's indescribable. I don't even know what happened to me while I was experiencing this. Persona 2 Eternal Punishment comes in strong, opening with Knights of the Holy Spear, or a riff on it, I should say. It's absolutely electric. But the title theme is perfectly in line with the overall tone of the game, already feeling a lot more cohesive than the absolute tomfoolery that happened in the digital audio workstation while they were working on Innocent Sin. Maya's theme is back in a sexy, understated way that I actually don't like as much as her remastered version in the Innocent Sin soundtrack, but a lot of the songs on this soundtrack are either remixed versions of their Innocent Sin counterparts or feature elements or nods to those games in the song. And I'll come out and say that, to me, this soundtrack is about 1,000 times more subdued than Innocent Sin's, and it doesn't quite have that same punch. In terms of story and characters, I really like Eternal Punishment, but the soundtrack department, it really just doesn't have that same chutzpah that Innocent Sin does. Which makes sense in a lot of ways if you think about it, kind of from their perspective. In Eternal Punishment, the characters are more mature and they know what's at stake throughout the whole story. Innocent Sin is kind of like an insane introductory romp with younger characters, and in Eternal Punishment, the protagonists are back and they mean business in a big old hogging major way. I will say though that the character themes are still killing it for me. I really like Balfu's theme. It just seems perfect for him, the way it's just got that kind of X-Files conspiracy funk to it. But other than that, really not much to write home about Eternal Punishment. The songs are fine, the game is amazing, but after I just had a religious ride through the Innocent Sin soundtrack, I'm left feeling like it missed the mark a little bit. But don't even worry your pretty little head, Persona game soundtrack enthusiasts, okay? Because the next Persona release is Persona 3, baby. Persona 3 lovers, kiss in chat, because guess what? Shoji is back in a major way. Persona 3 brings us tons of early 2000 flavor. It brings inspiration from hip-hop and R&B, which is evident from the beginning with Burn My Dread and Mass Destruction, which are two of the most famous songs from the OST. The Persona 3 soundtrack continuously fucks my Spotify Wrapped into submission year after year, and it's Persona 3 that sets the tone for Persona games going forward. Persona 3 soundtrack really dials in that addictive and listenable quality of a Persona OST that we'll come to know and love, and the cohesive take on a certain style or genre that will become a trend in Personas 4 and 5. And the OST really does an excellent job at representing those central themes and narrative of Persona 3. We get songs that make you want to dance and boogie and embody the euphoria of hanging out with your good buddies, all the way down to the hypnotic routine of taking a damn test. And then in the midst of all this, there's heartbreaking slappers that remind you of the impermanence of humanity and our time in this world. Persona 3 is definitely one of the sadder games in the series. The characters all have heavy lives and real problems, and all face the fact that reality isn't so cool all the time. And that is encapsulated in this OST of extraordinary highs and devastating lows. There are hopeful and exciting tracks like Tranquility and When the Moon's Reaching Out to the Stars and Joy and Changing Seasons and Afternoon Break, but there are also gut-wrenching songs like Memories of You that make you you tear up every time, but are still somehow in your workout playlist. I'll tell you right now that the feeling you get when you hit a set, right at the moment the chorus of Memories of You kicks in, oh my god, no one will ever make a pre-workout more powerful. No smelling salts you can give me that will hit harder than that. No drug exists. Alright? There are tears in my eyes, okay? But the weights are absolutely soaring through the air. I'm hucking that shit around like the dumbbells are freaking pine cones, alright? The Persona 3 and Persona 3 Fez OSTs do things to me like no other. The very first song on the P3 Fez OST injects pure nos into my veins and has me popping wheelies like I'm Waluigi. Shoji Meguro genetically engineered this OST in the lab to boil my blood and ignite my soul with passion. And I don't even have to talk about Mass Destruction. You all know. The cool thing though about Mass Destruction in Fez is that it's more or less the same song, but is lyrically a continuation to fit the character's progression as they come out of the journey and are heading into the answer. Another interesting fact about Mass Destruction is that Shoji Meguro actually initially brought Lotus Juice onto the Persona team for Mass Destruction. While editing this video, I found a series of interviews with Lotus Juice, and first of all, let me just say that guy, his voice is smoother than any mashed taters and gravy you'll have this holiday season. Good lord. But Shoji Meguro knew Lotus way before the production of Persona 3, and in fact he had actually tried to get him to work with him on several non-video game projects prior to asking him to rap for Persona 3. But each time Lotus shot him down, saying that he really wasn't looking to get famous, he just wanted to make good music. Finally though, while Lotus Juice was in America visiting friends and family, he gets a call from Shoji Meguro asking him to rap on a video game soundtrack. Lotus Juice was, however, skeptical at first because he thought that the video game soundtrack would just be shitty, lame 8-bit music. But eventually he received the CD for Mass Destruction, gave it a listen, and was immediately down for the project. They then brought Lotus Juice into the studio to record, but immediately he noticed that the English lyrics were a bit off. So in 15 minutes, he wrote his verse for Mass Destruction. I thought that was kind of cool and wanted to include it. Oh, and if you'd like to watch any of the interviews featured in this video in full, I'll have them all linked and timestamped in the description. But anyways, back to Persona 3 Fez. In Fez, we see the return of a lot of classic Persona songs like Time Castle and Persona, as we talked about earlier. Persona the song is an incredible nod back to Revelations Persona, which heavily influenced certain elements of Persona 3, and that's it. I love Persona 3's music. It's cool. It's great. Persona 4 Golden is another cohesive, well-put-together Persona soundtrack with Shoji Meguro at the helm. This time, though, we start to observe the trend that each Persona game takes a genre and riffs on that genre, doing freaking tricks on it. For Persona 3, we saw hip-hop influences, primarily through the rap verses as the most obvious element, but Persona 4 brings in a poppier flavor, which feels very in line with the story of the game and the fact that one of the characters actually is a pop star. Persona 4 is blessed with amazing, catchy tracks that I could listen to on repeat indefinitely, but also cursed by some of the most dog-ass music in the entire series. I would rather put my skull through America's largest, girthiest watermelon than listen to Who's There even a single time. This is actually one of the worst songs ever created, and I'm just not gonna put it in the video. Okay, it's not gonna be in the background, not one note of it, alright? I draw the line there, okay? If you are one of the lucky souls who don't know what this song is, and you haven't been through the pain of watching 30 cutscenes while your ears bleed to this song while the characters experience either something very scary or a minor inconvenience. Oh my god, Teddy's dropped his ice cream cone. Somebody better play Who's There for 30 minutes and make my ears bleed. Okay, if you haven't heard this song, if you haven't had that experience, the experience described just then, consider yourself very lucky. Don't Google it. Free yourself. Okay? I don't know if mods exist to replace this song in the game, but modders, y'all, do me a favor, okay? Put something over this, okay? Put, Sonic Stardust Speedway Remix B, whatever. I don't know what you have to do. But Who's There notwithstanding, all the other music in Persona 4 is generally pretty good. The Palace songs, though, are not, they're not my favorites, I'll be honest. Compared to the levels of Tartarus that, while similar, have their own separate groove that blends funk with sadness and impending doom, these Palace themes just are not that good. Theater's pretty decent, but the whispering, like the rest of that palace, is it's just uncomfortable. And Sauna's cool. the first 5 times, but after the 30 billionth, I do want to commit violent crimes. But not all the Palace themes are bad, okay? All right. Heaven is an incredible Palace theme. It's amazing. It's fantastic. It is an amazing song in general, and heartbreaking and amazing, and I've said amazing too much, but honestly probably is just great enough on its own of a song to make up for how much I hate Who's There. And you know what? Gotta stop complaining, because you know what? At the end of the day, every day is great at by Junes. Okay? It is. It's just a fact. And Period is the best Persona victory theme, hands down, in my opinion. Signs of Love and Heartbeat Heartbreak are instant classics and just really nostalgic Persona songs. The first content I ever tried to make, other than the Pokemon Black and White Let's Plays that I recorded on my ancient Dell laptop as a child but couldn't figure out how to upload because I didn't understand how the internet or YouTube worked, of course. I just thought the Game Grump guys were like hardwired into that shit. I don't know. But anyways, other than that, the first content I ever made or tried to make was about my first playthrough of Persona 4. Ask me if I ever finished Persona 4. Did I ever finish that game? Yeah, next question. Persona 4 soundtrack is overall pretty cohesive and obviously, as you can hear with your little ears, heavily influenced by Japanese pop music. However, I would say that overall this soundtrack is just not as strong as Persona 3 soundtrack. This OST, at least in my opinion, is kind of weighed down by terrible or mediocre tracks, but has plenty of amazing nostalgic tracks that also make up for the ear-bleeding mess that is Who's There. And remember, folks, at home, everybody remember, I'm gay, so my taste of music, okay, it's questionable at best. Lady Gaga willed me into existence in 2011, so if you disagree and you love Who's There and you think it's a masterpiece, you think it's a banger of all time, cool, perfect. I hate it. Woo, baby. Alright, welcome to Spin-Off Mania. Let's see how much money we can make without making a new video game. Let's go! Woo! Persona 4 Ultimax. Persona 4 Ultimax is an interesting one because most of the songs are fairly short, and most of the songs are also just themes for the different playable characters from Persona 3 and Persona 4 that star in the game. But one of the coolest things about Persona 4 Ultimax, other than that your characters can meet each other and oh hi, they know each other or something, is that the characters get this fun, as if you were a third party looking at them, description of them, and the Persona 3 characters get cool, fun little outfits. You can look up all the descriptions for all the characters in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, but I picked a few out that are my favorite that I'm gonna read off for you. First off, we've got Elizabeth being the lethal elevator attendant. We've got Akihiko as the two-fisted protein junkie. Naoto is, of course, the 2000 IQ killjoy detective, and last but certainly not least, we've got Kanji as the blood-curdling beefcake emperor. That's just a lot. For him to have to fit on his LinkedIn page, I'll be so honest. In terms of music though, Yukari's theme as the pink sniper goes pretty hard, and unfortunately even freaking Da Vinci's song is kind of sick. Risei's theme is fitting and it's fire, and all the Persona 4 characters have this cool little Persona 4 thematic horn moment in all their songs. But all the themes are fitting, the battle themes are good, the intro is good, it's good, it's thematic. It's a fun little fighting game spin-off. Now we're on to Persona Q, and I'm gonna go ahead and tackle Persona Q2 while I'm here as well. Persona Q and Persona Q2 gotta be the spin-offs ever. I do not have to tell you that Maze of Life is an exceptional song. This carousel takes us round and round. This Labyrinth of Life, dude, you can't tell up from down. Having so much fun. It's an eternal slapper for the ages, and it beats the shit out of Road Less Taken. I'm so sorry. Really sorry to them. I'm sure they worked really hard. I'm sure they did their best, but look, Maze of Life, it jumps from the dadgum free throw line and smashes the backboard on Road Less Taken. And I do appreciate Road Less Taken. It's a cool song. It does its best to meld all three very different Persona game vibes into one song, but Maze of Life, dude. Come on. Persona Q2 attempts to riff on Persona 5 songs just like Persona Q riffs on that of Personas 3 and 4. And these spin-off games are bite-sized little Persona stories just there to enjoy the characters and the idea that these beloved characters from different games could all come together and hang out, and that's exactly what the soundtracks are like. Popcorn from Q2 is a really cool song. It really shows off that blend of styles from the different games in a fun, funky way. And Pull the Trigger undeniably rocks. In Q2's soundtrack, there are riffs on all the different songs from all 3 games, and some that blend the styles, and overall Q2 is really just a fun little spin-off with fun little songs. Persona Q though. Persona Q. You look me in the eye. You look me in the eye and tell me that these songs are not slappers. You can't. You can't. There is a song called Corn Dog, and guess what? It bangs. It's called Corn Dog, for God's sake, and it bangs. Corn Dog is such a fun song that makes me want to learn how to play the banjo so I can do a banjo remix and call it Cornbread. And Light Up the Fire in the Night? Ew, dude. The song is nasty. The song is nasty. It's vile, dude. It's criminally good. I know this is a spin-off game. I know it's a spin-off game. Okay, but I'm gonna speak my truth here. Let's speak my truth. This is one of the best battle themes. And is my ranking of battle theme a little bit based on how many times in a row I can hear it without losing my mind or mocking the lyrics in a dumb, silly voice? Yeah, it is. Like with Takeover, I'll be so honest. I hear that song 10 times and it's over. The next one, the 11th one, I'm gonna be remixing the lyrics. There's gonna be some In My Ass. There's gonna be some fart butthole, okay? And it's gonna be saying in the worst cursive ass voice you've ever heard. But Light the Fire Up in the Night, dude. Persona 3 version and Persona 4 version, to be honest. The Persona 4 version, the chorus hits so hard. But the Persona 3 version, dude, I've cleaned the house to these songs before, and that's how you know it's a good one. If you'll vacuum the whole house to a single Persona song, that's how you know it's good. First time I heard Laser Beam, it was in a League of Legends highlight video. I heard that and I went on a manhunt to find it, okay? And I did. I tracked it down, Laser Beam, Persona Q, and now it's on Spotify, and I'm pretty sure that I have also cleaned / vacuumed my whole college apartment at the time to this song. Just this song, on repeat, looping it. And Best Friend, dude, that one is nasty too. They're all nasty. It was filthy, disgusting in the studio when they were making Persona Q soundtrack. It was gross. It was nasty. They were killing it, dude. The whole soundtrack of this game is just deliriously nasty, man. God. Should I play this game? And now, ladies, theys, gentlemen, I welcome you to every single Persona dancing game soundtrack. All the songs, all played at once. Oh my. Persona 4 Dancing All Night. Dance, dude. I ascend. Oh my god, dude. They did illegal things in the studio to produce this. I'm being so serious. You told me that blood magic was involved in the creation of this song. I believe it. I believe it. Groovy, though, kind of stinks as an opening for Persona 5 Dancing Star Night, and our moment does go pretty hard. Okay, alright, it's Friday night, okay? It's Friday night. Each of these opening songs also have their own opening cinematic to go with them. Kanji's breakdancing. It's freaking Friday night, baby. And Joker's just trying not to get hit by traffic. These dancing games, their soundtracks, they take songs from the original games and they do tricks on them. Some of the remixes are really good. Some of the remixes are crazy. They are silly and not very good. And also Kanji does the daggum stanky leg, so there is that. These games, while insane, are iconic in their own ways because who the thought that 3 games, one about humanity's ultimate desire for death and destruction, one about a string of murders in a small town, and one about societal corruption. Who would have thought that games like this also needed dancing rhythm game spin-offs? Absolutely mystifying logic, but I'm not gonna complain because some of these tracks are really great. Specialist, Period, Heaven, Shadow World, Same Time, Same Feeling, Like a Dream Come True, Last Surprise. There are too many remixes, too many good remixes for me to name. Okay, that's it. There are also multiple remixes of the same songs. So just do yourself a favor. If you haven't listened to these soundtracks, you haven't played these games, play them / listen to the soundtracks, because they do have some fantastic remixes on them if you love Persona music. There are also some remarkably bad remixes on these as well, but that's just part of it. Okay, look, not every leg can be stanky. Okay, there's gotta be some legs that smell just fine. All right, they're not all gonna be stanky. Okay, but before we talk about Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, there's a quick but extremely necessary little pit stop we need to make in Persona music history. While I was working on this video, I had a conversation with my younger sibling about the concept of the video and how I was trying to do my best to include most of, if not all, Persona releases. Now, bear in mind here that this sibling is actually the one who got me into Persona in the first place and has been interested in the series even before the release of Persona 5. So to the concept of my history of Persona music video, they immediately said, "What did you think about the Persona 5 Imagining project?" And to that I said, The what? Any fans that followed the series prior to the release of Persona 5 all know that the time between the release of Persona 4 and the release of Persona 5 was about 5 years, which is a considerable amount of time to wait, especially for a series that, thanks to Persona 4, had grown a faithful and downright passionate fan base. However, in 2012, a full 2 years before we would even get our first look at the Persona 5 we know today, a YouTube channel named Atlas XP5 began uploading full songs, trailers, and even releasing information regarding the story of Persona 5 as early as 2012. These mysterious uploads later became known as the Persona 5 Imagining Project, and you can still find the quote-unquote soundtrack and remixes created for a would-be Persona 5 on YouTube today. Now, there certainly was no shortage of mystery surrounding the Persona 5 Imagining Project, and one of those aspects was that no gameplay ever surfaced from this would-be Persona 5. The most we ever saw from this project was some art and, well, to be frank, kind of the backbone of the whole project, a pretty phenomenal, sick-sounding soundtrack. The soundtrack centered on genres like jazz, disco, and house, but also incorporated some aspects of hip-hop, pop, and rock music as well, not dissimilar from previous Persona soundtracks. The clear themes of the game that were showcased in the art, promotional material, and the songs, in combination with the overall quality of everything released at the time, gave the project a feeling of legitimacy, and further deepened the mystery of who could be behind all this. Because clearly, if you take a listen to any of the music, it's no amateur making these slappers. The store themes are all hard, Distorted Mall and Distorted School as Palace themes are better than like half of Persona 4's dungeon themes. Get On Down is a beautiful, chill little vibe. Feels like I'm having a whiskey on the rocks down at the Death Parade bar. Yeah, watch that step on the shower. It's crazy. Attraction, Wildcard, Reminder, these are all exceptional tracks, and all of this music is pretty hard and really does sound like Persona 5 in an alternate universe. But then in November 2013, while I was probably busy grinding RuneScape or performing a really mediocre bot lane gank as Volibear deep in the trenches of Silver Elo League of Legends, Atlas releases the first teaser for Persona 5, which pretty much is the nail in the coffin for any credibility the Persona 5 Imagining project had at the time. And with that came the realization from fans that the original artwork for the project was just adapted or edited from existing works, same as all the quote-unquote original music released on the channel. Turns out all the tracks were sourced from different albums, and if you're wondering if they might have just been sampling from different artists, which is a totally cool and fine thing to do, and most artists do take inspiration or sample from other works. For example, the iconic violin riff in Britney Spears' Toxic is actually just a sample, and Daft Punk Discovery is one of the most influential electronic albums of all time, but it was created mainly from using tons of samples from 70s disco and 80s R&B. But those crazy funky French guys just put their own spin on it and put more great music into the world. But sadly for the Persona 5 Imagining project, this was just not the case. These songs were not just sampled, they were pretty much just rips from existing songs, which is easier to see now. If we scroll on down to the description of these songs, we can see YouTube's copyright infringement system is able to identify the track that's been ripped in the song. But as anyone who's been on the internet for a while knows, this wasn't always the case. We didn't always have that feature. But really, we should have always known that they were rips, because in the description, it actually tells you where they got these songs from. But unfortunately, it is in Japanese. So all in all, at the end of the day, what was the Persona 5 Imagining project, and how does its existence matter in the grand scheme of Persona music history? Well, to put it very bluntly, the Persona 5 Imagining project was just an intricate fan imagining of Persona 5, and it slowly faded into nothingness as more information on the real Persona 5 was released. Nowadays, probably no one would believe that your Persona 6 Vibes playlist on Spotify or the fan art you create would be bread breadcrumbs from Atlas for an actual Persona release. And that certainly was some of the magic and mystery of the Imagining Project. But this project, an intricately crafted mixtape fan fiction, some might say, really just speaks to the love Persona fans have for the series and speaks to the cult following Persona had even before the commercial and critical success of Persona 5. If you'd like to learn more about the Persona 5 Imagining Project, please go check out this video made by a creator called Blue. I'll link it and timestamp it in the description for you. They have a whole 20-minute video on it that goes into much better detail and tells the story way better than I just did. Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal are heavily jazz and city pop influenced. Amazing, amazing soundtracks, and I am positive that I do not have to tell you that. I used to wake up in high school and just play the Persona 5 OST from the beginning, just listen to it straight down, no skips on the way to school. I was literally waking up, getting and getting out there, okay? And I'm here to tell you that Diamonds in the Sky, okay, or whatever the opening is for Royal, it's just not the same. I'm just not that into it, okay? Like, it's fine. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Diamonds in the Night Sky, that is a fine song, but it doesn't bring tears to my eyes and ignite a fire in my heart the same way, all right? Because Wake Up, Get Out There, Last Surprise, and Life Will Change, just all three, in my mind, are so beautifully married together musically and lyrically that it feels wrong to not have them all represented in Royal, because they were such a huge part of my Persona 5 experience. That heavenly triad just fits the story and the characters and the soundtrack so well that it makes me a little sad that Wake Up, Get Out There is not the opener anymore. And Persona 5 is probably the only game, or even you could extend that to animes, that I've ever continuously and consistently, every time I boot up the game or boot up the anime or TV show or whatever, I would always watch that opening. No skips. I would never skip it. On the other hand, though, for Royal, I think I watched Colors Flying in the Night Sky once. In Colors Flying High, I just... I looked up the name. Sorry, I've said it wrong like 12 times, but it's fine. But that song and Take Over, they really do mesh well together in their own way, but I wish that maybe they could have redone Life Will Change to fit with those, but also I don't, because I love Life Will Change, and I don't know, it's hard. And I know Last Surprise is not out of there permanently, but if you're a gamer like me, you try to always surprise the shadow, and then you never hear Last Surprise unless you're in trouble. But songs like Layer Cake, Butterfly Kiss, and Beneath the Mask, these are all also just masterclasses in how overworld themes or a shop theme should sound. So amazingly cohesive in style and in vibe, and such beautiful little earworms that you can just listen to indefinitely. Price and Whims of Fate are like the ideal dungeon songs. If you are going to have a song that loops on repeat over and over and over, just make it awesome. Make it rock. I don't know. Come on. But these soundtracks just fit that roguish criminal with a cause vibe so well, and they do it almost effortlessly, blending in with the sound design, the voice lines, and the overall vibe of the game. Better not use that to pull prank. Alright. You should be grateful. I guess that's fine.
We can do this!
Why does it sound like... What is this video, man? Better not use that to pull prank. But at the end of the day, Persona 5 is not a perfect game. It's far from it. Persona 5 isn't even a perfect Persona game. I don't even know if it's the best Persona game. And it's definitely not the best Persona soundtrack. But it just blends every aspect together in such a smooth and seamless way that it feels like it's the perfect version of the game it's trying to be. I don't know if that makes sense, but the best comparison I have right now to be able to kind of make a little more sense is to compare it to a live concert or a live performance. Every performance or concert you go to is going to vary in some way just due to the live nature of it. Like, not even Taylor Swift can dial it 100% in to make it exactly the same every single time. Persona 5 feels like it's that polished, best version of itself that it could possibly be. Like, Persona 5 is the whichever night of Taylor Swift that you think was the best. You know, the best surprise song, best best weather, best whatever, etc., etc. Not a Swiftie, okay, but I did take my girlfriend to the Eras tour, and it bangs. It's awesome. Persona 5 Strikers, though, this soundtrack, similar to some of the other spin-offs, does feature a lot of remixed versions of other songs, but a lot of these songs have just been dialed up to 10 because Persona 5 Strikers is a fast-paced, beat-em-up style game that is a first for the Persona series. But honestly, this game was really well made, well received, and deserving of the Persona name in both gameplay and soundtrack. The soundtrack is stylish, it brings tons of jazz flavor with even some disco-ish elements thrown in there, and there's even some heavier metal influenced track to really take us into the action. There's even some electronic tunes introduced for Sophia the Robot, a new character introduced in the game. But the real star of this game for me is the Blooming Villain remix. This is easily my favorite Persona song remix, and honestly probably one of my top 10 favorite Persona songs of all time. Just a personal thing about me, I am a slut for victory. Alright, The Lion King, that scene in The Lion King at the very end where Simba gets up on Pride Rock, he's in the rain and he's just roaring in the rain. Dude, that makes me tear up, cry a little bit every time. So that victorious little motif that comes in Blooming Villain around the 1 minute mark as a juxtaposition to the heavier, harsh, heavy, oppressive sounds from the beginning just tickles my victory bone. Just sounds like victory. Just sounds like the protagonist pushing back against Kamoshida and all his BS. And it makes me tear up a little bit. Got a lot of nostalgia for me and Ryuji and An being the shit out of Kamoshida, showing him what's what, okay? It was good times. There are not many, if any, misses in this one. Rivers in the Desert, that remix, it was a miss for me. It was a miss. But Blooming Villain, a hit in a huge, huge way. Okay, now Persona 5 Phantom X, the mobile game coming out. The devil works hard, but look, Atlas works even harder making their million spin-offs, okay? This time, mobile game. Phantom X, though, does seem to carry on that Persona spin-off torch, at least in that it seems well made and features elements that made all the other games successful. All the Persona 5 Phantom X tracks are pretty good, on par for the series, and carry all the Persona 5 themes that you'd expect. Persona 5 Tactica, dude. Okay, first of all, this game looks great. UI is fire, but the music is also incredibly beautiful. The Beneath the Mask remix alone, that just for me is enough to want to grade this as one of the best spin-off soundtracks. And I love the juxtaposition between those hard guitar riffs for combat and the peaceful acoustic refrains for out of combat time. The overall energy of this soundtrack just seems great already and seems like it's going to be on par with Strikers in terms of song quality. However, though, it does seem like a lot of these songs would fit better with Persona 5, like they're trying a little bit more to be Persona 5 songs. Strikers, on the other hand, though, felt like it was taking a lot of inspiration from Persona 5, but wasn't shying away from being its own thing. Some songs on the Tactica OST, however, sound like almost an extension of the Persona 5 soundtrack, kind of like a from the Persona vault track, if you will. Songs that didn't quite make it in Persona 5, but still rock. And finally, let's talk about Persona 3 Reload, or I guess what we've heard so far from the trailer. The new battle theme, It's Going Down Now, sounds amazing. It's a perfect blend of old and new, and not disappointing in the slightest, at least based on what we've seen so far. It is really going to be tough, though, for any new additional content that they want to add, just because it really could fuck things up so easily, considering the amount of love most Persona fans, including myself, have for the OG Persona 3 battle themes and overall OST. All the new songs, though, and new versions of previous songs all sound pretty great, sound like they stay true to Persona 3 and expand on the themes musically and lyrically, and honestly, what else could you have wanted or predicted or potentially wanted from Persona 3 Reload anyways? The new Changing Seasons sounds awesome, although I am going to miss the random French lyrics. Why do we have to get rid of those? Come on. No baguettes, but still plenty of bread to be burned in this Persona 3 remake, and I guess that's the most important thing. Alright, so that was roughly 30 years of Persona songs, hundreds of tracks, 2 accidental Taylor Swift references, and 1 kanji hitting the stanky leg later. I guess that's fine. Here we are, all caught up with Persona music history as we know today in the present day, where we wait for Persona 5 Tactica to release and Persona 3 Reload. Thank you guys so much for listening to some Persona songs with me. Hope you had fun, and if you'd like to keep hanging out, go ahead ahead and watch another video if you want.
that's
If not,
fine.
thanks again. Take care,
All right.
and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Better not use that to pull a prank. Alright. You should be grateful. I guess that's fine.